Greetings, friends around the world. This is Bible News Prophecy Program, and my name is Alexander Sashavevich. Welcome. Just at the end of the 2022, two very important leaders in this world, the Russian President Vladimir Putin and the Chinese President Xi, held a video conference in which they basically strengthened their mutual relationships and also changed their relations with the West. They increased their military cooperation, which again and again they changed completely their relations with the West, now considering that the conflict in Ukraine has been going on for months now, and some of us still hope it will finally end in 2023. Many of us hoped it would end much earlier anyway. The German news agency Deutsche Welle reported on that meeting. It was held on 30th of December 2022 at the very end of the year, and it was Friday, so they held a video conference during which the two leaders said that they would seek to strengthen relations between their two countries. Russia has sought to ramp up its political and military ties with its key ally Beijing, since Moscow faces unprecedented Western sanctions over its invasion of Ukraine. China, meantime, has not condemned Russia's war in Ukraine, and we know that there have been rumors of war in possible attack that will be led by China against Taiwan. Now here is a quote: "We aim to strengthen cooperation between the armed forces of Russia and China," Putin told Xi, calling the Chinese leader a dear friend. The Kremlin chief also praised Moscow and Beijing's efforts to counter unprecedented Western pressure and provocations. In the context of growing geopolitical tensions, the importance is growing of the Russian-Chinese strategic partnership as a stabilizing factor. These are the words from the Russian President Vladimir Putin. While the West seeks to cut its dependence on Russian energy, Putin said Moscow has become one of the leaders when it comes to oil exports to China. Now those were the main remarks from Vladimir Putin. Now what did the Chinese President Xi said? According to the translation provided by Russian television, Xi told Putin that Beijing was ready to increase strategic cooperation with Russia. And here is the quote from him: "We maintain close strategic contact." This is what he said to Putin, adding that the relations with Moscow have demonstrated their resilience in the new era the world is witnessing. Now, despite the differences, Russia and China wish to topple USA naval primacy in Asia. They, along with India and various other countries, also wish to topple the dominance of the United States of America and dollar around the world. Russia and China want the world order changed to a new era where the East, not the West, calls the shots. Now, here are some statements from Russian leaders related to that. On December 29th, so just a day prior to this video conference between the two leaders, the Russian-based agency Sputnik reported that if and when Russia returns to joint work with the West, it will be conducted on new principles. The old approaches no longer work, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said in an interview with Sputnik. And here's a quote from Sergei Lavrov. "One of the lessons is that if and when we return to joint work, then it will have to be conducted on a new basis, as the old approaches no longer work," Lavrov said. After the start of Russia's special military operation in Ukraine, the West stepped up sanctions pressure on Russia, which led to an increase in prices for electricity, fuel, and food in Europe and the United States. Russian President Vladimir Putin earlier said the policy to contain and weaken Russia is a long-term strategy for the West, and sanctions have dealt a severe blow to the entire global economy. According to him, the main goal of the West is to make the lives of millions of people worse. Russia's Deputy Foreign Minister Mikhail Galuzin said that the era of unipolar world led by the United States is over. Quote, "The geopolitical realities in which we exist today have a serious impact on the entire system of global and regional processes, including integration ones. The era of a unipolar world, when the United States and its European satellites used intimidation tactics that they had polished to perfection over the years to dictate conditions to other countries and determine their course of development in accordance with their selfish interests and even break their state systems, is coming to an end, Galuzin proclaimed. Russia remains an honest and reliable ally both in political, trading and economic terms. The relations of trust that remain among the CIS, CSTO and EAAEEU countries contribute to the fulfillment of obligations and the achievement of new goals. End of the quote. Russia and China are in several international organizations together. Now, you may wonder, dear listeners, what does the Bible teach about these new developments that we're seeing on the world scene? Well, the Bible certainly is not silent about it, because we're talking about some major countries that are movers and shakers in our world. Bible teaches that Russia, China, other countries of Asia, and likely including India, will end up in a military confederation together. Statements from leaders in Asia are consistent with what we can read in the Holy Scriptures. Now, the following prophecy from your Bible, friends, shows a military confederation including Russia, people from the north, and Asian nations like China, one of the kings from the ends of the earth, that they will form that confederation. This is Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 41 and 42. Behold, a people shall come from the north, and a great nation and many kings shall be raised up from the ends of the earth. They shall hold the bow and the lance. They are cruel, and shall not show mercy. Their voice shall roar like the sea. They shall ride on horses. Set an array like a man for the battle against you, O daughter of Babylon. Now, what I've just read is also consistent with the following from the New Testament. Yes, so please just don't think that only the Old Testament holds some relevant prophecies. On the contrary, what is indeed written in the Old is very well confirmed in the New Testament. So please pay attention to Revelation chapter 16, verse 12. Then the sixth angel poured out his bowl on the great river Euphrates, and its water was dried up, so that the way of the kings from the east might be prepared. And I saw, writes John the Revelator, 3 unclean spirits like frogs coming out of the mouth of the dragon, out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet, for they are spirits of demons, performing signs, which go out to the kings of the earth and of the whole world, to gather them to the battle of the great day of God Almighty. Behold, I am coming as a thief, says Jesus Christ in Revelation. Blessed is he who watches and keeps his garments, lest he walk naked, as they say, see his shame. And they gathered them together to the place called in Hebrew Armageddon, or Armed Megiddo, as we translate it from English. This is the section in Revelation 16, verse 12 through 16. So here we see that the kings of the east are those that need to cross the Euphrates. Now, we all well know that Russia, China, India, Japan, Korea, and others are from the north and east, and also probably kings of the east. Military cooperation now looks to be a mild prelude to Armageddon. Some forget that although Russia is a nation of the far north, as we can read in Ezekiel 38, verse 3 and verse 6, it is also a nation that has parts in the far, far east. Russia, whose territory is mainly in Asia, is prophesied to work with the East militarily, not with the West. The concept of Asian involvement in a major battle is confirmed elsewhere in the book of Revelation. Please notice, chapter 9, verse 13. Then the sixth angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the 4 horns of the golden altar which is before God, saying to the sixth angel who had the trumpet, release the 4 angels who are bound at the great river Euphrates. So the 4 angels who had been prepared for the hour and day and month and year were released to kill 1/3 of mankind. Now the number of the army of the horsemen was 200 million. I heard the number of them, and thus I saw the horses in the vision. Those who sat on them had breastplates of fiery red, hyacinth blue, and sulphur yellow. And the heads of the horses were like the heads of lions, and out of their mouths came fire, smoke, and brimstone. By these 3 plagues, 1/3 of mankind was killed by the fire and the smoke and the brimstone which came out of their mouth. This is Revelation chapter 9, verse 13 through 18. Dear friends, only China and possibly India and other countries in Asia, many of which will align themselves with China and Russia against the European Empire, are capable of fielding a 200 million man army. No other part of humankind is capable of something like that. And thus, Revelation appears to be discussing a nation role in the end time prophecies. It's time for you to understand that. Notice the prophecy of in Revelation 9. It mentions colors. Although the Chinese flag itself is basically red and yellow, it perhaps should be mentioned that the colors of the Chinese flag for its Navy and Air Force is military, and Air Force is military, and its military is red, blue, and yellow. Also, if you notice, the colors of the insignia that many of its troops wear are exactly red, blue, and yellow. Interestingly, there were only about 100 million males, including children, on the entire earth when God had the Apostle John pen the prophecy in Revelation 9:16 that we have just read. So, when he penned this prophecy that 200 million men army would be formed, and this means that despite those who claim that the book of Revelation was fulfilled centuries ago, they're called basically preterists. Well, this means that the prophecy about 200 million men army is for a time like we are now in. According to several sources that I checked with, and I cannot find a firm reference on the date, Chairman Mao allegedly boasted in the 1960s of an army of 200 million men, and according to one source, referenced that prophecy in Revelation. And of course, this prophecy and its interpretation is nothing new. In the last century, the man by the name Herbert W. Armstrong wrote a book, The Book of Revelation Unveiled, in 1972, and he writes the following. The second woe, with its symbols of horses and horsemen, is also referred to as an event in the day of the eternal in Joel, the book of Joel, chapter 2, verse 4. This refers to a tremendous military power. They come with an army of 200 million. Think of it, an army of 200 million. World events are now moving rapidly to make possible the creation of a Eurasian army of that unbelievable manpower. He wrote that in 1972, and now we're seeing the increased military cooperation in the Asian bloc. If you also notice what Joel 2 indicates, some of what that 2 million army will do, this is in the book of Joel, the prophet Joel, book of Joel, chapter 2, verse 2. A people come great and strong, the like of whom has never been, nor will there be any such after them, even for many successive generations. So fire devours before them, and behind them a flame burns. The land is like the Garden of Eden before them. This is describing, of course, their military march against the European, so-called revived, but so-called Holy Roman Empire. A fire, verse 3, devours before them, and behind them a flame burns. The land is like the Garden of Eden before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness. Surely nothing shall escape them. Their appearance, how dreadful all of this is. Their appearance is like the appearance of horses, and like swift steeds, so they run. With a noise like chariots over mountains they leap, like the noise of a flaming fire that devours the stubble, like a strong people set in battle array. Before them the people writhe in pain, and all faces are drained of color. They run like mighty men, they climb the wall like men of war. Everyone marches in formation, and they do not break ranks. They do not push one another. Everyone marches on his own column. Though they lunge between the weapons, they are not cut down. They run to and fro in the city. They run on the walls. They climb into the houses. They enter at the windows like a thief. Joel chapter 2, verse 2 through 9. Friends, that massive army will cause fear and massive destruction, and even climb into houses, which is what raping armies tend to do. Although Russia is not the primary power that will topple the United States of America, nor is China, or India or Iran, the reality is that Russia and China have taken steps and plan to take more steps that they hope will one day lead to the elimination of the United States of America and their dominance in the world, and the biblical reality is that the United States will lose its dominance anyway. And while the actual power that will defeat the USA militarily will be European empire, as prophesied in Daniel 11:39, Russia and China are working together and do have the toppling of the USA dominance as a shared mutual goal. Their willingness to work together to attempt to make the USA less relevant will have indeed an impact. For more information and on world news, you can see on our website www.biblenewsprophecy.net. Until next time, goodbye friends.